Is my slide visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so one form we are going to learn about is learning. Okay, how there is a learning process, how is part of the like the brain, or how the learning happens in the body. Okay, so learning, it is say some kind of a process which involves conditioning. Okay, learning involves conditioning, and conditioning means the body gets conditioned and respond to stimuli. Okay, it is also a kind of reflex, but it involves conditioning. Okay, so in learning there are two types of conditioning: conditioning type 1 and conditioning type 2. The conditioning type 1 example is like salivation in presence of a palatable food. When you see a food which you know the taste of, if you know the taste of a food and that food is kept in front of you, you feel like eating and there is initiation of salivation. So this is a kind of learning, and in this conditioning type 1 involves. Okay, another conditioning is conditioning type 2. In this conditioning type 2, there is conditioning in the form of avoidance. So this is also called avoidance conditioning. And this avoidance conditioning can be operant conditioning or discriminative learning. Say like rewarding for a successful approach. So suppose this kind of operant conditioning involves much in case of training dogs, okay, or training other animals. While training a dog, we teach them to perform a work or an activity, and after he completes successfully, we give a reward, maybe in the form of a pet, just a pet them, or just some eatable, okay, maybe a biscuit, maybe a bone to bite, like that. Okay, so this kind of conditioning is called operant conditioning, and for example is like giving rewards for a successful approach. Okay, so this in this type of conditioning, the conditioning is conditioning type 2, and it is a part of learning. Okay, another is discriminative learning. That means it is rewarding for distinguishing one stimulus from another. Say you give one command, then you let the animal do that activity, give one reward, and ask him to do another activity, and you give another reward. Okay, and the animal is able to distinguish these two kinds of commands. Yes. Why is like this? I tell them to well in advance. I give the link well in advance so that they can join in time. It is disturbing. You also join in time. I give the link half an hour before, right? So that you people can try and join well ahead of time. Done? Is it done? Still your attendance is very low, 43. Not, it's just half, little more than half. Oh, anyway, so that is learning it happens through the conditioning. Conditioning is of two types: conditioning type 1 and conditioning type 2. And in conditioning type 1, like, see, you know that kind of conditioning when bell is rung in a farm and the food is given to the dogs simultaneously. Okay, and that training is given to a farm for all the dogs, and the dog starts salivating. Okay, but after training, some days the bell is rung, but the food is not given. Even after that, also there is salivation. Okay, in the hair, after hearing the sound of the bell, the dog starts salivating. So this is a kind of conditioning type 1. Okay, another example I'll give you that in a cage a mouse is kept. Okay, and inside the cage a pole is kept. Okay, and the cage is fitted in such a way that electric current can be passed on to those cage wires. The mouse will be kept on the floor of that cage, and when an electrical stimulus is given, okay, to that cage, simultaneously a sound is also, a buzzer is made. Okay, a sound is also given, and when the sound and the electricity comes to the cage, okay, and when the mouse hears it, the mouse tries to climb on that pole, okay, just to escape from the electric current, just to escape from the shock. Okay, and the training is given like this. After few trainings, what happens, even if the current is not given to the cage, after hearing the sound, the mouse climbs up the pole just to escape the electricity. He feels that with the sound there will be electricity, and he tries to escape it. So that kind of training is a conditioning type 1. Okay, so you can cite such examples like this. And another is conditioning type 2, and in this some rewards are given. Okay, that kind of conditioning may be operant conditioning, or it may be involvement of discriminative learning. Okay, then another higher activity of the nervous system is memory. Okay, so where is memory located? Where is a memory of a person is located? This memory, the storage, okay, the storage of these informations in the form of memory, it will be happening in the cortical cells. The cortical cells of the brain they are going to perform the activity for processing of this information. Okay, and the process of that storage of that information is called memory. Okay, so memory, it is the process of storage of information, and this storage of information will be possible. It will only be possible through the synapse of the nerves. So this is a function of the synapses, through the synapses. Yes. This is very disturbing. You try to join on time, okay, from next time. Tell them to try again. I'm on that page. It should make entry itself. I don't know why some people can't enter itself. Done? Is it done? It's only 40. One has come just now. Done? One more. Done? 43 only. Some have left. This means. Okay, if you live in between, it is only your loss. Okay, these classes, these topics, when you search in the books, it will be so vast. Okay, it is always better you attend the classes and listen to my lecture, because I have made it very concise. Just touching your syllabus, and I'm giving you only the salient points. You should not miss the classes. It will be really very difficult for you, especially for nervous system. So what is memory? Memory means it is the process of storage of information. How the informations are stored, okay, in the cortex. And it is possible only through the synapse of different neurons. Okay, so this is a function of the synapses, and memory storage of the memory is possible only through the synapses. So most of the storage of the memory occurs in the cerebral cortex, and to some extent in even the basal regions of the brain and the spinal cord. So memory, mostly the center for storage of the memory is in the cerebral cortex, and very, very less amount, okay, of memory, they are also associated to be stored in the basal regions of the brain and spinal cord. Okay, and the memory, it can be of short-term memory and it can be long-term memory. What do you understand here? Do you have any idea about the short-term memory and the long-term memory?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. What is the difference? Basic difference.
Ma'am, long-term memory process during our deep sleep.
During our deep sleep. Really?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Dreams, actually, this type of about the dreams, okay, how the dreams are happening, all that is still not very clear, okay, how the dreams are formed, whether it is a short term or very, very short term, it is not very clear. Still the investigation is going on, but here short-term memory and long-term memory is something like something happened in your childhood days, which you still remember, okay? That is long-term memory, which you still remember, okay? Short-term memory is something like some events happen when you were studying in class 10 or 11 or 12, but you don't remember now. You compare between the memories of these two. One is the information which is stored of your childhood time, but you still remember, okay? That kind of memory is the long-term memory. But short-term memory is something like, I'm teaching here in this class. Now you know what is memory. Now I tell you that short-term memory is there, long-term memory is there, okay? But in the exam, you forget that what is memory, how many types of memory are there, okay? So that memory which you remember right after my class is the short-term memory. But what will happen if you keep on reading about this memory 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, okay? And even say then you know it and then you still remember in the exam, that has converted to the long-term memory. And even after years, 10 years, 20 years, you still remember my lecture that ma'am told that memory is of 2 types, short-term and long-term. Then it is a long-term memory. Okay, so there are 2 types of memory. One is short-term memory and long-term memory. Okay, so in case of the short-term memory, it lasts only for a brief period, very short period of time, and any disrupting activity during the processing of short-term memory can prevent conversion to a permanent one. That means this short-term memory has to be processed so nicely to convert to a permanent one. And during this conversion process, if some disturbance happen, it will not convert to long-term memory. Okay, so it will only last for a brief period of time, and that memory is the short-term memory. Okay. Then another is the long-term memory. It persists for long time, even for weeks, or may even last for years. Okay, then it is, and how this long-term memory is created, how the short-term memory can convert to the long-term memory. So it is created by repeated excitatory inputs producing super sensitive responses in the pathway. That means in the pathway, what do you remember? That sensory pathway and the motor pathway. Okay, so that two pathways have to be coordinated. They have to coordinate to one another. So there has to be sensory pathway, motor pathway, sensory pathway, motor pathway. And this is going to happen, these excitatory inputs are going to happen in a repetitive way. Okay, and also producing certain super sensitive responses. Means there it is, the inputs are given, that does not mean that no responses are produced. That means there is numbers of the reflexes happening. That means there is excitatory inputs and the output in the form of response, and this pathway is going to happen in a repeated ways. That means it's something like you read it, that's short, remain as short-term memory, again you read it, then short-term memory, again you read more, then the response become more and more and more, and it converts to the long-term memory. Okay, so it is created by a combination of anatomical means those nerves, the nerve tracts, the neurons, the dendrites, the axons, and this is created by a combination of anatomical and the chemical senses. So anatomical means change in the number and the shape of dendritic spines, the involvement of numbers of neurons, the involvement of the different bodies of the neurons during the synapse, and the chemical senses. The chemical senses, which is going to happen in the form of a neurotransmitter. Okay, so this transmission of the impulse will happen again and again and again, and that also in a super sensitive response. Means there has to be response more and more and more. So changes in the proliferation and the synaptic contact of the axon terminus. Yes, these changes, the synapses, there has to be changes at the synapse. There has to be changes at the synaptic contact between numbers of axon terminals, numbers of the dendrites, numbers of the spines. Okay, so different types of the changes are going to happen during this conversion from short-term memory to long-term memory. Okay. Then another term is imprinting. So imprinting is also, yes. Wait.
We are still in memory.
Imprinting. Can you see imprinting now?
Yes, ma'am.
From short-term memory,
Okay.
can
So
you please repeat the slides?
Short-term memory. Yeah. So in the short-term memory, it lasts for only a brief period. You think like this, that while you are attending my class, you remember everything. Okay? You close the chapter, you don't read it. After this, my class, you don't read it. And in the exam, you get the question on short-term memory. And now you don't know. Okay? So the memory you had after my class was only the short-term memory. Okay? To enable to write about this short-term memory in your exam, it has to be converted to the long-term memory. Okay? Now you are trying, it is converted to the long-term memory by repetitive actions. How? In this case, how you are going to involve the repetitive actions? You have to read again and again. You have to perceive through your eyes. That signal will go through your eyes, an image will be formed in your brain, and that has to happen again and again. Got it? Is it okay about the short-term memory?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the short-term memory means the process has not repeated much. So if there has to be repeated processes and the responses are in the super sensitive way, okay, in the pathway. So here in the pathway means that sensory and the motor, sensory and the motor, sensory and the motor. There has to be repeated movement from the sensory to the motor, sensory to the motor. Okay, so that's why there is involvement of the combination of anatomical and chemical changes and also changes in the proliferation and synaptic contact of axon terminus. That means there has to be repeated synapses between the numbers of neurons. Okay, fine. Can I go to imprinting now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Imprinting. Okay. So what is imprinting? Imprinting means many of you might be playing mobile games. I hear this word quite often. Okay, imprinting is okay. So this imprinting means it is the instantly acquired and lifelong memory that an animal or person learns the characteristics of some stimulus. That means when okay, I'll give you some examples, then you will be more clear. So the best known example, okay, the best known form of imprinting is a filial imprinting. Filial imprinting, that means in which a young animal learns the characteristics of its parent. Imprinting means something like you must have seen duck, okay, a mother duck. When a mother duck is having numbers of the chicks, okay, with her, and in that chick, also among that chicks, okay, among those ducklings, one chicken chick is also there. Okay, then what will happen when the mother duck jumps to water and starts swimming? The duckling also learn swim. Okay, and in that process, the chick, she will also maybe due to the network problem. Hello, is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it is like those ducklings will instantly be able to swim. Okay, so that is due to the imprinting. Means that mother has given some inputs that we have to swim, okay, and now the duckling is able to swim. But during this time, the chick will also try to jump onto water, but she will not be able to swim because of that. That is due to the physiological inabilities. So that is called filial imprinting. That means in which a young animal learns the characteristics of its parent. Okay, then for example, like the attachment of a dog with its master, attachment of a calf to a pole where it is usually tied, or to a bucket in which milk is given to the calf. That means like if you take that bucket to the calf, okay, even after years when the calf has grown up to adult, there will be some attachment between that calf and the bucket. Okay, so that kind of attachment, that memory which remain for a prolonged period of time, okay, that may be for the lifelong memory, that called imprinting. Okay. Yes, next topic is sleep wakefulness. Are you able to see this slide? Sleep and wakefulness. here one
Yes, ma'am.
important point is which part of the nervous system controls sleep and wakefulness. Okay, so sleep and wakefulness, okay, sleep or wake cycle is controlled by reticular activating system. You remember this, okay? This is important. Reticular activating system, also that is short written AS, or extrathalamic control modulatory system. It is also called extrathalamic control modulatory system, or reticular activating system controls the sleep and the wake cycle. So in case of animals, sleep occupies much of their time. Okay, much of the animal's life, okay, is occupied by sleep. That means animals spend lots of time in sleep. Meaning is, so sleep the cycle, it can be divided into deactivated sleep. D means of sleep, cello kind of sleep, something like those in the class. That kind of deep sleep. Okay.
It was
When,
not.
sometimes what happens where since when sleep occupies much of the animal's life? Is it clear now? Hello. Okay. Sleep, again, in the sleep cycle, there will be two types. One is one sleep, it may be deactivated sleep and the activated sleep. Deactivated sleep is cello type of sleep, or activated sleep is the deep sleep. Okay, so it will be difficult to wake up that person or the animal. Okay, so there are two types of sleep, two parts in the deactivated sleep and activated sleep. Well, I'm showing a table. You see, yes, of first of is deactivated sleep and the you see, in case of pig, in case of you see in case pig, 46% wakefulness, the remaining is in the sleep. Again, in the sleep also, deactivated sleep, that means a cello kind of sleep, is 46.4, while the activated sleep is 7.3. Okay, in the second row in case of pig. Okay, but you see in case of horse, the last row you see, in case of horse, wakefulness is 80% and the remaining 20% is in the sleep. That means horses spend less time in the sleep as compared to animals. Okay, but in the first one, in case of the cat spend only 44, remaining they spend in sleep. They are sometimes termed as notorious sleepers. Okay, so that way you can study this table that horses, they spend very less time, 20% of their 24-hour time in sleep, while 80% in the wakefulness. But in case of the cats, it is about 45% in the wakefulness, another how much? 55% in the sleep. Okay, like that you can study. Okay.
What is the difference between activated and deactivated sleep?
Yeah, in the next slide. My next slide is visible. Is my next slide visible now? The difference
No, ma'am.
between?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay, so this way. This way.
Yes, ma'am. Now it's visible.
Wait, I'll just put one animation here. Okay. Is the slide visible here? So, in case of the deactivated sleep, what happens? First is there is ability to analyze changes in environment just for the fun, okay? Just for the fun, so that you remember characteristics of deactivated sleep. Just imagine that someone is sleeping in the class when the class is going on, when some teacher is, when a teacher is explaining in the class and someone is supposed sleeping, okay? So that kind of sleep will be a deactivated sleep. Okay, so during that, what will happen? First point, that is, there will be reduced ability to analyze changes in the environment. That means he will not be aware that what the teacher is explaining. Okay, there is reduced inability to analyze the changes in the environment. The teacher may be shouting, the teacher may be telling to write something. He may not be able to hear, he may not be able to listen, he may not be able to see what the teacher is writing in a blackboard. Okay, that means there is reduced ability to analyze changes in the environment. Okay. Next point.
Ma'am, you are not.
There will be increased threshold to support that. Hello? Hello? Is it audible now? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Then say a person, okay, another student just sitting next to this student. He realizes that his friend is sleeping. Okay. Now he wants to wake him up. Okay. First he may give a just with his hand, he may just push him, his friend, the next one. He may still continue. Okay. He may not realize that his friend is just giving a push. Okay, that means there is increased threshold to sensory stimulation. At that time, he may need to give a pinch just to wake him up. Okay, that is, if he's not sleeping, he will know that his friend is giving a push or jerk. Okay, but if he's in a deactivated sleep, the friend has to give a pinch on his skin. Okay. Yes, during that time, there will be relative muscular inactivity. He may not be able to write properly. Even if he tries to write, the handwriting will not be proper. Okay. During this time, parasympathetic nervous system dominates. Okay. So PNS, that is parasympathetic nervous system, dominates during this time. Okay. Then what happens in the activated sleep? In the activated sleep, there is inhibition of motor activity due to increase in activity of motor inhibitory system. So during the activated sleep, it is something like someone is sleeping in the hostel. Just imagine someone is sleeping in the hostel and he is not able to get up for your class, and his roommate is trying to wake him up. Okay, so during that time, his all motor activities are inhibited, and during this, there is no movement, nothing. During this time, the threshold for arousing stimuli is greater than during the deactivated sleep. That the jerk in the deactivated sleep, that jerk or push would have cause arousal to the sleeping one, but in this time, just giving one jerk, it may not be possible to wake him up. And during this time, there is a rapid eye movement. Okay, so the rapid eye movement sleep, that means it happens that REM sleep we call. That means the REM sleep, during this, the eye moves very rapidly. Okay, so the frequency is very, very fast, and that kind of the sleep is a very deep sleep. Is it okay about the differences between activated and deactivated sleep? The main activity, the main thing, okay, the main activity activated is the inhibition of the motor system. Okay, there is inhibition of the motor activity due to increase in activity of the motor inhibitory system. That means motor inhibitory system is more than the motor excitatory system. Okay, there will be motor inhibitory system, and the threshold for arousing stimuli is greater than the deactivated sleep. And here, rapid eye movement, that is also called REM sleep, okay, occurs. And as per the position of sleeps for animals, animals can sleep. Is my next slide visible?
Ma'am.
Why there is problem? I don't understand. So position, as per the position of sleep. As per the position of sleep, animals sleep in many positions. They can sleep in many positions. Say horses are most likely to sleep in standing position. Okay, while standing itself, they can sleep. Pigs are most likely to lie down or sleeping. Pigs tend to lie down. Ruminants lie down in lateral recumbency. Now you know lateral recumbency. I explained this recumbency in my previous classes. I hope you remember it. If not, you search it, okay? I have explained this already in my previous classes. Ruminants lie down in lateral recumbency. And cattle can exhibit deactivated sleep during standing. Okay, then birds can exhibit both deactivated sleep and activated sleep while perching. Do you know perching? What is perching?
No, ma'am.
Do you know perch? How do they stand on tree branches with their legs? Like with their fingers, grasping on the tree branch. Birds, they can sit by grasping with their fingers, on the tree branch. You know that one? That is called perching. PER, perching means how their feet grasp around the tree branch and how they stand or sit there. That is called perching. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay now? Okay. So while they are perching on the tree branch or any stick or on some other objects, they can exhibit both deactivated sleep and activated sleep. Okay, and depth of sleep, it varies with species. Cats are notoriously deep sleepers. Okay, they can really sleep very, very deep. Otherwise, in most of the animals, they easily get aroused with mild stimulus. Also, they get easily aroused. But for cats, they can go to deep sleeps. You might have seen many pictures how they used to sleep in many different positions. And cattle are easily aroused. Okay, so next topic is consciousness. Okay,
Ma'am,
so
next slide is not visible.
It must be visible now. No? Consciousness slide?
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible now? Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So consciousness, okay. So, consciousness is regulated by brainstem reticular formation. You remember these points, okay? Who is associated with memory? Who is associated with sleep? Who is associated with consciousness? Okay, in different portions of the brain. You remember all these points, okay? So the consciousness is regulated by brainstem reticular formation. So this is a portion which involves many areas of the brain. Okay, so the brainstem reticular formation, the tick of the brainstem reticular formation lead to more sensitivity of cortical cells to sensory information, and due to this there will be behavioral alertness. Okay, and when there is depression of the brainstem reticular formation, there will be behavioral sedation. Behavioral sedation, something like we see in movies and all, some people go to coma. That is due to the failure of the brainstem reticular formation. Okay, that is destruction of the brainstem reticular formation causes permanent unconsciousness and coma. Okay, so consciousness is regulated by brainstem reticular formation. It's okay, nothing. Okay, simply what you have to know here is that the brainstem reticular formation controls consciousness. When the brainstem reticular formation is activated, there is behavioral alertness, and when there is deactivation or destruction, then there is behavioral depression or behavioral sedation. So when the brainstem reticular formation is destroyed, then the person or the animals will go to coma or permanent unconsciousness. Okay, next is emotion. Okay, emotion is controlled by limbic system. Okay, so then what are the components of the limbic system? The component limbic system consists of septum, hippocampus, amygdala, and cingulate portion of the cortex. Okay, so limbic, if someone asks what is limbic system? Limbic system consists of septum, hippocampus, amygdala, and cingulate portion of the cortex, and they are involved in control of emotion. Rabies is one such condition, or it is a actually it is a disease caused by rabies virus. Okay, in this what happens, there is the virus get lodged in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a part of the limbic system, and due to the injury, okay, due to the deformity in the hippocampus, because the virus eats up the hippocampus, so the hippocampus fails to do its normal activity. So due to that, the animal becomes emotionally imbalanced. Okay, so in rabies, the animals become emotionally imbalanced. There is disorder in the emotion of the dog, and it happens due to the presence of the rabies virus. Okay, when the if rabies virus has entered the body of an animal, any animal, okay, then it will go through the nerves, and it will travel through the nerves, and finally it will get lodged in the hippocampus. That means hippocampus site of election of rabies virus. So due to the injury caused by rabies virus in the hippocampus, hippocampus being a part of the limbic system, the emotional there is emotional disorder in the animal. Okay, so if virus is present in the hippocampus, then there will be emotional disorder, and that happens in the rabies. So about the rabies, you will study much in details in your higher classes. Okay, but here my concern is rabies is an emotional that happens due to the rabies virus. In this, there is emotional disorder and in the animal, and it happens due to the damage in the hippocampus, because hippocampus is a part of the limbic system which controls emotion. Okay, fine. Up to this, so what we have discussed today, we have discussed many things. Okay, we have discussed about learning. Okay, then we have discussed about memory. Then we have discussed about imprinting. We have discussed about sleep and wakefulness and consciousness. Okay, and emotion. Fine. Up to this.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, do rabies virus only present in dog?
No, it is not. The virus, it can be a cat, it can be any. The virus is excreted in the cell. Okay, so when that rabbit animal bites another animal, it can be human being, it can be mouse, it can be rat, it can be dog, it can be a tiger, any animal. Okay, so that rabies rabbit animal to the another animal, healthy animal. Then what will happen, that rabies virus will enter through that cut injury. If there is no cut injury, the virus cannot enter our body because skin will protect it. Okay, the virus will be washed out and it will die. The virus can easily die, but once it has entered our body, then it will go, it will find the nerves, the peripheral nerves. Then it will go through the peripheral nerves and finally it will reach the hippocampus. Is it okay? So it can be human beings also. Yeah. If someone is suffering from rabies, okay, a human being, and if he bites onto another animal, can be any animal, and the virus is transmitted to the cut injury, the another animal will get rabies. Yes? Someone was telling something? Anything? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so this is about some of the nervous. When you're very much in brief, okay, you cannot miss any point of this. This, you have to know it. You cannot forget, you have to know it at all. If you read in the books, no, it will be big chapters, okay? It will be difficult to memorize, so you will memorize the points which I have given and try to write down a note on what I have explained, how I have explained, at your own, just to make a story, so that that memory transforms to permanent memory, so that you can write something in your exam. If this memory remains only as a short-term memory, it will not help you because it is very much vaporous, okay? It will go in the vapor and you will forget it. Okay, so I want to show some instruments. Yes?
Ma'am, is epilepsy in humans the same as rabies in dogs, ma'am?
Pardon, I couldn't hear. What is same? Is it same? The same virus? Yes, like it is the same virus. Yeah, it is called Lisa virus. Okay, it is the name of the virus is called the Lisa virus. You will study in much details about this rabies. Okay, so it is the same.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, but usually what happens, the bites are more common in case of dogs, right? Because the dogs of one community, one locality, they fight with another locality because they had some territorial marking and all. So they used to fight, they used to bite, no? That's why it is more easily transmitted from dogs to dogs. And then through the bites by dogs to the human beings, it can easily transmit. Okay. But this rabies, no, one peculiar characteristic is that until and unless the rabies virus reaches hippocampus, okay, if the rabies is in the nerve but has not reached hippocampus, the individual will not show any symptom of rabies. It will show its symptom only when it reaches the hippocampus, because hippocampus is a part of the limbic system which controls the emotion of that animal. So the behavior, okay, there will be change in the behavior, the emotion will change. Okay, fine.
And this does not mean that any animal will have the virus.
If the human being bites the animal.
No, ma'am, I'm asking that it is not necessary that a particular animal will have the virus.
No, there are different stages, okay? There are different stages that when the virus starts excreting in the saliva, there will be different stages. Those part I don't remember exactly. I don't know exactly because I studied it around 23 years back, so I don't remember those things, okay? But at what stage, when, with the clinical signs and symptoms, at what stage the rabies virus comes in the saliva, that part exactly I don't remember. But the signs and symptoms will only come when the hippocampus is affected.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, that at what stage exactly the virus is excreted in the saliva, that I don't remember. But the thing is that the virus has, the dog has bitten at your leg, okay? Not at your leg, at the leg of another animal. Then the virus has to travel a long distance to reach to the hippocampus. So the animal will take long time to show the symptoms. Okay, but if the bite is at the head, suppose, so the virus will take less time to reach to the hippocampus, then the animal will start showing symptoms very soon. So it happens that some girls, okay, in my knowledge, a girl got dog bite during her childhood and she started exhibiting when she was around 18 years old. Okay, because the bite was not towards the head, it was at the leg. So it takes long time to reach to the hippocampus. It may take a very long time. Okay, fine. You will study in detail, okay, later on. And if you have some interest, then you just study. But you may not find the exact one in this in Google, because those clinical signs, symptoms and all. Maybe you may better refer a book, okay, any book, and then you can read it. That will be better. Yeah, just at your interest, I'm telling. Okay? Next, I want to there are some topics that names of some instruments used to study the brain activities. Okay, so one is EEG. So what is EEG? That is Electro Encephalogram. What is Electro Encephalogram? Does something like ECG, it is a graph, okay? The graph is something like this, which records the activities of the brain in the form of electrical activity, how the electrical activity of the brain cells okay, are exhibited, and that record is the electroencephalogram, and the electroencephalography is the recording of electrical activity of the cortical cells. Okay, then different waves, and these waves are again given different names. Okay, delta, theta, like that. Okay, so that I don't want to go much into details. So here, these are the waves of these are the waves which are exhibited due to the electrical activity of the cortical cells. So in that, in and around the brain, different electrodes are placed, okay, at the different locations of the brain, and the brain waves are recorded. So for that, a very clean room is required. An air-conditioned, dust-free room is required. So in that, the person will be allowed to lie down, and then different electrodes will be placed around the head, and each electrode will record different activities, okay, different waves. So that is the electroencephalogram. Here, what you have to know is what is EEG, name, and in what it does. It records the electrical activity of the cortical cells. Okay, so it is also called as a Berger rhythm. Another instrument is oscilloscope. Okay, what is this oscilloscope? So oscilloscope is an instrument, okay, a type of electronic test instrument that allows the observation of constantly varying signal voltages. That means at the different locations of the brain, the different activities of the nerves are recorded with the help of some probe. So probe is, this will be placed at the different portions of the brain, and the waves in the cortical cell movements, they will be exhibited in the form of a graph. Okay, so that is oscilloscope. Okay, so second one. Then that is electrical muscle stimulation. That means this is EMS, also known as neuromuscular electrical stimulation, NMES. You may be asked, what is EMS? What is NMES? Like that. That is, it is the electrical muscle stimulation, also known as neuromuscular electrical stimulation or electromyostimulation. So in this, it can elicit some muscle contraction using electrical impulses. So some electrical impulses will be to the muscle, and the muscle will emit their functions, contractions or relaxations. And these kind of instances are used in the physio. Okay, so when there is some injury or some fracture conditions or some injury at the divisions of the body, at the jaw movement is restricted, or say leg in case of a stroke in human being due to heart attack. Okay, body, maybe the leg, maybe hand, or maybe the jaw muscle, maybe the lip movement is not there. So in such kind of conditions, this electrical muscle stimulation, they are quite oftenly used. Okay, so the damage to then the exercises in the rehabilitation centers, those kind of situations use this muscle therapy, okay, in the form of electrical stimulation, electrical muscle stimulation, okay, or electromyostimulation for muscle contraction. Okay, so 3-4 names, that much is okay. Good. So in the next class, we'll discuss about ear, some other special senses. So in the special senses, we'll be discussing about ear, eye, smell, and taste. Yeah, I think that's all. Eye, ear, smell, and taste. Yes. So these are left from the nervous system. Anything, anyone wants to discuss? Yes, anyone who has any question? You have to read today's class nicely, okay? And this is the most concise form. You cannot leave any point from it. You have to know each and every point from here, from these slides, okay? So it is there, everything is there in your notes, so you read it. Try to remember the points, okay? And which part of the brain controls the emotion, which part of the brain controls consciousness. So it should be in your memory, okay? So you should know all this. And I must tell you again, those parts of the hypothalamic nuclei and the functions they control. That is also very important. You have to remember those. Okay, fine. Your attendance is really very low. Tell your friends to attend the classes. It will be up later on. Learning will be even difficult because the classes are now online. Sometimes the internet connection is not good. Again, on top of that, if you're missing classes, it will be really very difficult to cope up. Okay. Okay, you can leave the class for today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.